Oh my gosh, do you look beautiful.
When I first started thinking about this story, Felix was the central character in my head, and I've always been reluctant to work with Bill after Lost in Translation because I feel people loved him so much in that, and it's too much expectation. I could never do that again.
But I think you need to have more energy and quicker within the lines.
But now, after all these years, I feel like I love working with him. We'll just go for it and try something and do something different.
Stand up. Put your arms around me.
What? Yuck.
I have great trust in her. I've been really fortunate to work with people that are really good and fun. So when they call, I just go like, okay, it's Sophia.
I feel like now that I've known Bill all these years, he's a friend and like a big brother who, not unlike the character, kind of sweeps in and brings magic and life to the situation. And so he's sort of this fairy godfather.
Does my foot smell funny? I've had more fun watching her all the time. I mean, she's just a child when she made this movie, and she just keeps getting better.
Just wait a little longer before you exit.
Oh, sure.
This movie's personal to me in that it reflects where I've been living and details of parenthood and struggling with being creative and trying to find your footing. And in Lost in Translation, it was a young woman in her 20s kind of finding herself, and now this is another phase. And hopefully by the end, the characters have gotten something from each other.
We all just want to be loved. You've got beauty and character, which is the most important thing a person can have.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Power Women Summit. My name is Daisy Auger-Dominguez, and I'm the Chief People Officer at Vice Media Group. I'm excited to be here with all of you today to lead a roundtable discussion on breaking barriers, using your platform for change. I'm going to be speaking with some amazing women and femmes from various backgrounds and expertise who will discuss how they're using their platforms, their voice, and their spirit to empower positive social change. But before we get started, let me give you a short bio about each of them because they're all pretty phenomenal and you should know about them. Let's start with Candace. Candace Parker was selected as the #1 overall pick in the 2008 WNBA draft by the Los Angeles Sparks. Candace became the first player to earn WNBA MVP and Rookie of the Year honors in the same season. And she was named Finals MVP after leading the Sparks to the 2016 WNBA title. Parker's honors include 3 WNBA All-Star nods, the 2013 WNBA All-Star Game MVP award, and 6 All-WNBA selections. She also led Team USA to gold medals in the 2008 and 2012 Summer Olympics. Welcome, Candice. Next, we have American fashion designer Elle Mambetov. Only recently rebuilt her life and fashion brand after being released from a UK prison, where she served 2 years before the US government intervened to free her and return her home back to America. A London Fashion Week designer at the age of 26, Elle's just revealed her luxury new women's wear line, Zhou, along with the opening of her flagship store at the Beverly Center in Los Angeles. Welcome, Elle. Next, we have Ezzy. Ezzy is the ultra-talented, classically trained violinist who catapulted into digital stardom when she began performing covers of viral trap hits on her violin. In 2019, Ezzy signed with Universal Decca Gold and has since been releasing her own original and unique music, with her first EP coming out February 2021. Her music is a blend of virtuosic melodies and orchestral soundscapes with hard-hitting beats, a classical fusion that is cinematic, orchestral, and anthemic. The juxtaposition of seemingly unrelated worlds allows Ezzy to connect with diverse audiences and bring classical music to new audiences. Welcome, Ezzy. And then there's Isis King, who is widely known for being the first trans woman to compete on both the 11th and 17th cycle of America's Next Top Model, thus becoming one of the most visible transgender people on television. Since America's Next Top Model, Isis has starred in the docuseries Strut, executive produced by Whoopi Goldberg, and When They See Us by Ava DuVernay. Whether it's alongside Rihanna on the Fenty catwalk, or most recently HBO's Equal, Isis has made it clear that she is here to stay and is a force to be reckoned with. Welcome, Isis. And finally, but not least, Michelle Page is an internationally acclaimed DJ, founder, CEO of the artist agency Nona Entertainment, and a co-founder of Woman Collective, working to turn our conversations on equity, empowerment, unity, safety, and responsibility into action. Earlier this year, Michelle was featured in InStyle magazine's 2020 Badass Women issue. Michelle has DJed around the world for top awards season parties, including the Golden Globes, Emmys, Oscars, and Grammys, and for companies including BBF, Marc Jacobs, Vogue, GQ, Marie Claire, Vanity Fair, and more. Oof. Welcome, Michelle, and welcome all of you. I am so deeply honored, and I feel like I'm going to get so many cool points from my 12-year-old daughter for meeting all of you. Well, let's get started with a question for all of you, and we'll start. I'll prepare you so that you can be ready. We'll start with Candace. You've all come from such different backgrounds with varying expertise. Elle, you're a fashion designer. Candace, you're a professional WNBA player. Ezzy, you're a classical fusion violinist. Isis, you're a model turned actor. And Michelle, you're a corporate businesswoman turned DJ. Candace, can you start out with letting us know what is the defining moment in your life that you can point to that led you to build the career that you've designed so beautifully?
I was fortunate enough to grow up in a household where my parents told me I could do and be anything I wanted to be. And I had two older brothers, and they didn't treat me any different. There wasn't a different curfew. There weren't different expectations. It wasn't like I was busy doing dishes and my brothers were, eating. Everything was 50-50. That's how I grew up. And so in my life, when I went to college, I kind of saw that the world wasn't too kind all the time to women. And so when I left my home and I went to college is when it kind of defined like what I wanted to be, what I wanted the world to be, and what I expected everybody to see in me. And so I think that's kind of a defining moment is when I kind of left the comfort of my home and, those values and kind of went out into the world and saw how much more we have to give and how much more there is to believe in just as being a woman.
Beautiful. Elle?
No, like Candace said, I also grew up with my mother telling me that I could be anything that I wanted to be. So I didn't have those restrictions. And I think for me, a defining moment when I was 7 years old, I asked for my first sewing machine. And that was something that, not only did my mom give me, but she gave me lessons and those type of things. And I knew no boundaries when I was growing up. And I didn't have a cultural perception that said that I couldn't be. I only knew that I could be.
Beautiful. Ezzy?
Yeah, so for me, I started playing the violin when I was 4 years old. And when I went to middle school, we had the chance to join our first orchestra. And when I auditioned for this orchestra, I was a bit younger than the other kids. I was maybe 10. I auditioned for this orchestra and I practiced so hard. I perfected everything. And when we got the results back, I was placed third chair. And I was just devastated. And I went home to my dad. He's Afro-Guyanese. And I was like, Dad, why am I third chair? And he's like, this is America. You're not only a girl, but you're a girl of color. So I went back to my conductor and I said, I think there's been a mistake. And she's like, well, luckily we have something called the challenge system. So you can do a blind audition where you'll do a tape and they'll say which tape was better, A or B. So I challenged second chair and I won that spot. Then I challenged first chair and I won that spot. And I stayed first chair till I went off to college. But that was a moment where I realized not only do I have to work incredibly hard, I have to be at 2,000% when other people can get by with 100%. And that has walked with me throughout my career and my journey as an educator, as a musician, as a film composer, in every aspect of my life. Because just to be not only a woman, but a woman of color means there's several strikes against you, and it's just inspiration to be that much better. So that was a defining moment for me.
Oh, powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Isis?
Well, first of all, that was like X Factor. So that was awesome. I'm trying to think, where do I start? Because there were so many twists and turns with my story. I saw a documentary called Paris is Burning, and I saw Octavia St. Laurent in there, and that was the first time I saw a trans woman kind of living her life. And that inspired me, because before that, it was only TV shows like Jury and Maury where you see trans people and they kind of were mocked. So Octavia St. Laurent was in a ballroom scene and she just lived her life and she had these dreams and aspirations. And I was just like, that's like me. So I put it in the back of my head and I ended up moving to New York because I saw Octavia transition in the ballroom scene. I'm just a Black girl from Maryland in an all Black area where, you know, I started wearing mascara at 20, but it was an issue in the house. So I knew I had to move away. So I followed like Octavia. I moved to New York. I found the ballroom scene through MySpace. Don't let that, you know, that kind of aged me. but I found the ballroom scene through MySpace, moved to New York City to pursue it because I knew that that was going to be the way I could find out who I really am. I knew, but I needed help to kind of make that happen. Shortly into that move, I became homeless because the job opportunity, I wasn't really bringing in hours for for retail. So I moved into the shelter because I started my transition and going back home was not an option at that time for me. If mascara was an issue, at this point, I started living my true life. So I moved into a shelter. And it's crazy how things happen because I was a homeless youth at the time, I ended up getting an opportunity to be a background extra for Top Model for a photo shoot. And Top Model was one of my favorite shows. So I watched every episode, and being in a ballroom scene, it helped me with my competitive edge. So I was a background extra, and I remember listening to Mr. J tell the contestant what to do. So I started inching up, listening to what he's telling her. I was always told that if you give 110%, you never know what can happen from it. But as long as you give your all, you did your best. So I started inching up to her light, and it got to a point where he had to tell each contestant to watch out for me. Because of that, I ended up getting harassed to come and audition and be a part of the show, and that changed my life. I'm told a lot of times, especially as a model, not to talk about being from Top Model, but for me, it really elevated and helped my story, being the only one who made it that far as a trans woman, especially as a Black trans woman. But because I did that, it allowed me to unlock things in my mind and really pursue other things I wanted to do. I'm only 5'7". I never thought I could really be a model, but I love the show. And that happened for me. So if that can happen, then why can't I be an actress as well? And because I went on the show, it allowed me to unlock those things and really go for it. And it's been an uphill battle, but I'm literally doing everything that I wanted to do. And it all started from just watching a documentary and saying, hey, that person is like me and I want to make my dreams happen too.
All yourself. That's beautiful. Thank you, Isis. Michelle?
Hi. I'd have to start by saying my grandmother raised me since I was 14 in Youngstown, Ohio, and was, you know, hell-bent on me being an independent young woman. And I think that shaped me into working hard and Ezinma, like you said, you know, knowing that I could sit here and complain that things aren't fair, that there's a glass ceiling, but I can complain all I want because the person up in the big office, you know, wants me to keep complaining. What I really need to do is just work harder. Just work harder, you know, and you're gonna get up that ladder. So I think that was always my mentality. And then I was working in Hollywood, and I was a personal publicist, a talent publicist. I won tickets on the radio. I was an assistant. Won tickets on the radio to Woodstock '99, you guys, and went to this 3-day no sleep event, and they had DJs in this airline hangar, and I used to go out to the clubs all the time and DJ AM I loved so much, and I'd watch his fingers, but it never occurred to me to do this. I didn't see a lot of females, and I'm a hip hop lover, and Spinderella was like the only one I knew of the females, and growing up in Ohio I didn't see a lot of DJs. So I think that I was at this nighttime DJ event at Woodstock '99, and I look up and I see this girl with a blonde ponytail bouncing around DJing, and I look around and everyone's happy and everyone's dancing, and I thought, I could do that. And I made myself wait 6 months to make sure I was serious about it, and I was, and I still wanted to do it, so I bought turntables, and they collected dust because I was working my way up the PR world, and I had a relationship and all these other things, and then I had an event, and Spinderella was DJing this event, and that my client was doing, and I was introduced to her, and she became my mentor. And those moments really defined my entire career. The way she even marketed herself, the way she, you know, just focus on the basics and becoming a technically sound DJ and marketing yourself in the right way. And you know, and going to Woodstock and having this light bulb go off, those definitely defined the last 20 years of my life. And then opening Nona Entertainment and working on the things that I've really focused on with the companies that I'm involved with.
That's amazing. Thank you all so much for sharing these really powerful moments in your lives. It reminded me, Michelle, when you said your note, I was also raised by my grandparents, and I was raised in the Dominican Republic. And all I ever heard my entire life was, you know, Daisy does not have to learn how to cook. She does not have to learn how to do anything else. She's going to be a professional. that was in the back of my mind forever. So like many of you, there are moments, and then there are messages that we hear throughout our lives, and they fuel who we are. And you have all just risen to the very top, and I believe that for all of you, this is just the beginning. Thank you so very much. Well, let me ask individual questions now, because I think we want to dig a little bit more into your stories, the power of your stories. Elle, you were wrongly imprisoned in the UK for several years. You're now back into fashion designing. Can you tell us about that experience and how you've been able to rebuild your life and get back into fashion?
To be honest, I didn't think I would ever be able to do fashion again. I think going from, you know, a very like vibrant life and childhood to being, you know, labeled as every Black stereotype that you can imagine, and being wrongfully, you know, held in a foreign prison for so long, it just stole so much of my joy and my creativity. It was such a dark place, so it was very difficult, and I didn't think that I would be able to not only return to what I love, I had this identity crisis of who am I? Because for so long, my mom raised me and told me that, you know, I can be anything, but even working so hard to be anything, someone was allowed to label me as nothing. So when I returned to the US, I spent a lot of time just figuring out how to rebuild myself and figure out who I was, because for most of my adult life, I was a fashion designer. I showed on London Fashion Week catwalk, and I was a designer, and that's what I worked my life to be. So it was a long journey. And I remember it was my husband who told me, you know, why don't you just start? Why don't you just try? Design something. And I was like, I tried. It's his. Look at it. And it was this process of keep trying. And my mother was just so supportive, and she was there from day one with me the entire time, her and my husband. And I said, okay, let me try to do it. Let me try to do it again. And I finally decided to release a collection. And of course, that's when COVID-19 hit. So we did a digital presentation, and I've just been so fortunate for all of the support with Vogue and Glamour and Elle magazine and just around the world. And now to open my first boutique in the Beverly Center, I'm truly honored and I'm truly thankful because, I am now, I converted to Islam. I have, a mannequin in the window wearing a hijab. And I'm just so happy to be able to authentically be myself and to find that color and that spirit in my life again.
Oh, and we are so grateful for that, Elle. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I live in Brooklyn, but I used to live in LA, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm so excited. I'm looking at the beautiful fashions in the background there, and can't wait to get my daughter and I to shop.
Come visit.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Elle. Well, I'm gonna turn it over now to Candace. Candace, the WNBA were among the first athletes, I love to say this, they were among the first athletes to wear warm-up shirts with social justice messaging affirming Black Lives Matter. How do you feel you're using your role on the court to promote inclusion and social justice?
Well, just by saying the WNBA, we're a league made up of women, and 80% women of color, LGBTQ, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different religions. So we pride ourselves on being a league that has made up the majority of the minority in this country. And so for us, it is our responsibility, it is our mission to speak for those that maybe don't have a voice. And that has always been our mission. And I know now in 2020, social justice was the hot topic and something that everybody was involved in and had a hand in, which it should have been. But the WNBA has been a part of this for a long time and fighting for equality. And with that, in 2017, everything with Colin Kaepernick happened with the president and making it about the flag. And, we were booed because we didn't come out for the anthem by an entire crowd in a finals game. And so that was kind of the moment where I was like, this is bigger than basketball. It's bigger than a sport. Everybody has to go, and when you step off the court, you're human. You go to the store. I'm a mother. I want much more and so much better for my daughter. And so I think just being a part of the WNBA, especially, not just this year, but throughout time. This year, we dedicated our season to the Say Her Name campaign for women of color that are killed by police brutality, and just bringing awareness to that. So we wore Breonna Taylor's name on the back of our jersey, and, we wore her name, but there are so many other women of color that have died in the hands of police. And so this year, it was nice to stand in solidarity with our brothers in the NBA and across the leagues to have support. Because, in years past and generations past, it was a couple athletes that would stand up and say, this isn't right. You think of Muhammad Ali, you think of Bill Russell, but there's never been entire leagues that have done this. And so for this year in 2020, to be a part of this historical season, to be able to have 144 people in the WNBA, be a part of something so great and standing with the NBA. I mean, it was really special to be able to have that impact and to be able to use our platform in that way.
And it was special to experience it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh goodness, I feel like I could talk to all of you for hours. But I will move on now to Isis. Isis, you shared at the beginning your story of going from homeless to starring in America's Next Top Model, where you were one of the only openly trans women on TV at the time, and now you're starting in HBO's Equal. Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey, specifically about you've told us about the beginning journey, but talk to us a little bit more about that professional journey as a role model for the transgender community. What message do you have for them?
I think my message has always been to never give up. Throughout my career in general, I came on TV, 2007, I was in a documentary called Born in the Wrong Body on MSNBC. And then a year later, I was on Top Model, but that was 2008. And if you really think about the wave of trans representation on TV, most of it just started within the last few years. So you have to imagine, I was homeless, I come from a poor family, and now I have all this fame, and I don't have any money. So throughout my journey, I've had to constantly work jobs and constantly get in where I could fit in and just make it work. And that has been a difficult journey, but I think perseverance is a key part of just knowing that there's more out there for you. Early on, when I first came off Top Model, to go back to MySpace again, I remember that happened, and the person who was like a mentor to me at the time, I came off the show and I went and slept on his couch, and because you didn't make money off that type of show. And I was just like, okay, what do I do now? And even though I didn't know the journey that was ahead of me, someone reached out. It was a young gay guy, and he sent me a message. And I always tell this story because I think it was a turning point for me in my head. He reached out to me through MySpace, and he said, I was about to commit suicide, but I saw your story, and it helped me realize there was a light at the end of the tunnel. So at that moment, it made me realize that even though I was just living my life and I just wanted to succeed, the impact that it had was so big for so many people. And I was just like, oh, and I have to say it did put pressure, because that was also the beginning of my transition, which a lot of people didn't realize. It was the beginning of my transition. So I still had to figure out who I was, on top of having no money, on top of now having this pressure to make the right decisions, because it was going to impact so many people and inspire so many people. I remember a young trans Asian girl came up to me one time years ago in New York and said, I moved from Asia and came here and transitioned and pursued my career as a model because I saw your story. And that was at a time for me where it's been a wave in my up and down roller coaster for my career, because when you're doing this and then you go out there in the world and opportunities are really not there for you yet, it's moments like that that keep me going. When I say, oh snap, I inspired this person to do this, like I can't give up, So it's been this roller coaster to kind of continue to go. And 4 years ago, I moved to LA from New York because I felt the wave happening, and I said, I need to shake it up for myself, because I'm complacent in New York with this retail job doing makeup. I need to really make sure full time I'm ready and jump back on a horse and kind of just make myself uncomfortable again, because I worked too hard for the wave to happen and me not be a part of it, So I moved here 4 years ago, and I feel like When They See Us was a great opportunity for me to kind of, it helped me to get out of the typecast of being just a model type of actress. A lot of people don't know, I've been acting for just about the same amount of time as Top Model. But When They See Us, I think even was another turning point for me to be seen as a serious actress. So yeah, I've just been riding the wave or the roller coaster and allowing inspiration from other people, or how I impacted them sometimes to even keep me going with this, because it is a difficult journey, especially when you come from a poor family and also the foundation of your career has been still no money. but it's a thankful and so humbling journey, because along the way it has helped me realize that whatever is meant for me will be mine. Simple as that. And that's the recurring thing that I try to encourage people to remember. The journey might be hard, but what's meant for you will find you. Continue to be positive, to uplift other people, and to always put your best foot forward whenever you're doing anything, because no matter what the outcome is going to be, you did your best and it's going to work out.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And Isis, I hope that as you're sharing that story, as humbling as it is, that my heart is warmed by listening to how you are now that light for others. How that light that you needed once, you are that, and you're shining it ever brighter every day. So thank you so much. That's lovely. Well, Ezzy, let's talk a little bit about you here. You were part of history when you performed on the violin alongside Beyonce in 2018, when the singer became the first African-American to headline Coachella. Now, tell us about that experience and how you're using your amazing musical talents to pave the way for female artists and people of color looking to break in.
Yeah, that was, an incredible, I just got chills as you were, so amazing. I had the good fortune to work with Beyonce for 3 years. And, it was at a point in my life where there was a lot of uncertainty, like, what am I really doing here? Then I got a Facebook message from her musical director, Derek Dixie. And I almost turned down the opportunity because of her NDA. I couldn't know who it was. I couldn't know the dates, like how much I was getting paid, all this stuff. So I was like, you know what? I got turned down. And he calls me. He's like, Google my name. So I Google this guy's name. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like the queen. So I show up to the first day of rehearsal, and it's these bad ass chicks, right? The band is all women. And my jaw was to the ground. I was like, I had never been around so many powerful women who were so fluent in their instruments, just at the top of their game, so professional. Like, it was just incredible. And that experience made me realize how important having a tribe of women around you to empower you, to push you, to inspire you. Because guess what? We all get down. We all have moments where we have no money. We have moments where we're like, why am I doing this? But it's that tribe of women you can keep checking back into to lift you up. And realizing that I want my platform to be that inspiration for other women as well. You know, I think in the music industry, there's not much visibility for instrumentalists who either rap or you sing or you produce. But there's so many other layers and levels of music, and you DJ. Sorry, Michelle. DJ that's a big role in there. But I think just as an instrumentalist, wanting to really use my platform and my voice and my story to bring light to so many young people who are just like, well, I play the guitar, or I get all these emails like I'm a pianist, or like, what do I do? I'm the only girl in my band, or all of these things. And I think for me, it's just bringing light to those young people. And that experience with Beyonce was definitely, specifically with her band. And then that's a whole other story. But just that moment of realizing the importance of the visibility, the strength, the technical proficiency, the dedication, the discipline of women, and how it is important for us to all do this together and lift each other up. So that was an amazing moment and performance for me.
I love that. And the power of your tribe. I'm going to start using that in my work when people tell me that they can't find diverse talent. I was like, if Beyonce can staff an entire team of all women, you can find them.
You can find them. If she can find 4 black string players, like, come on.
You can find them. I love it. Thank you, Ezzy.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, continuing on the music and the business theme, how are you bringing your status as a DJ and the expertise to your company, Nona Entertainment, and your consultancy agency to advocate for pay equality and to keep female quality DJs working, doing their thing?
Let me first start with the story because Ezzy, you maybe affected me and my business a little bit, not knowing it, but the year that Beyonce and all of you took over Coachella, one of my clients is Absolute, and they have an Absolute house, which is basically a club on the Coachella grounds right next to the main stage. And they've had male DJs for the past few years. And when Beyonce was headlining, I was like, we need to bring in the woman. We need to bring in the women. And we took it over, and we still had some guys in there, but all the headliners in the Coachella club house were females that year, and then we've done it the next year too. So it was a big moment for us to get to, we're on the Coachella grounds all DJing. It was really big, and to have really amazing diverse array of women and female identifying DJs in there was major. So I was very proud of that. But, I book Nona a little bit differently. I have about 24 or so non-exclusive DJs so that I don't just have 6 and say, everybody can do any format. I really try to hone in on who's great, who plays from their heart, certain types of music, who will work well, brand crossover, all that kind of stuff with certain clients on certain projects. And because I've always booked myself, I've developed these relationships with clients where I don't just show up and play. I really hone in on creating a vibe and a journey for the party. And I get very specific and detailed, and clients trust me, and we have these conversations beforehand that I don't think every DJ is having, and probably not every DJ booker is having either. So I've also tried to educate them when someone is not a DJ, or that's not the way you DJ, that's musical curation. We can do an iPod for that. You know, I'm a believer in turntables and technical and all that, you know, all that's behind the scenes. But trying to educate my clients, trying to have honest conversations, pushing to get the most, you know, everyone's on a budget. I do a lot of Hollywood events, and, you know, they're hit, but I really try to push and negotiate for my DJs as much as possible. People think I only book females. I also book the men, but I just want everyone to be paid the same for the same gigs and also be treated the same. When they walk into an event and the sound people treat a woman differently and don't think she knows how things should sound and what things should look like and how things should already be set up versus the men, I've seen it myself. So I really try to push on that. Delivery is important, but it needs to happen. And then Woman, I'm part of Woman Collective with 3 partners that are all in nightlife. And we've really tried to create, and I know a lot of people are not fans, but safer spaces, more inclusive spaces, where even we have female bodyguards and we have just more supportive spaces. We were at Coachella last year. We had a safe space there that people could go to if they needed to get a break from the craziness, or if paramedics weren't what they needed, but they needed some support. We had that there. So it's been I think that a major turning point for me was around 2015. I realized how many DJs were coming into the scene, right? And when I was in my 20s, I thought, I don't want to be a 35-year-old DJ. And then as I was hitting that age, I realized, what are you doing? You're putting limitations on yourself. You're feeding into ageism. You're like, this is bull. So I really decided, and you see so many people getting into the DJ game, and it's a saturated market, and people have a lot of Instagram followers and stuff. And I was like, I'm going to embrace the big sis role here and start doing things to support my industry. And I started DJs Who Lunch, which brings together, we have like 20, 30 DJs, female DJs in LA, to get past the competitive nature and to get to know the people behind the names. And we get together every 2 or 3 months, usually in person, but we've been doing Zooms during quarantine, and to really just get to know each other and tell inspiring stories, vent. We talk about when someone isn't paying the DJs. We talk about equipment, all that kind of stuff. So supporting in that manner. But I really decided, let me take this big sis role, and I'm still hitting, I still feel the glass falling. I'm still hitting these new levels. So I'm going to keep DJing and not put this age, that we've all grown up kind of valuing youth so much. I'm going to embrace this more. I'm not perfect, but I'm working to really try to be the big sis and have honest conversations and support the fellow females in this industry, and make it a less competitive and more inclusive environment, and really support DJs who kick butt, but also let's try to up each other. Let's try to up each other so that we are challenged to up our own games, in that sense. I'm a fan of that too. Did I answer your question?
It's very clear that you, Michelle, and all of you lift each other up and lift your communities up in a beautiful way. Thank you so much. Well, you know what? I'd like to ask now a group question. And the title of this talk is Breaking Barriers, Using Your Platform for Change. And you are all clearly barrier breakers, and you are all clearly, you have all found ways to leverage your platform for change, for good. What advice do you have for someone who is looking to take action, to start making a difference? Where should they start? What would you share with them? I'll start with you, Isis. What would you say to someone?
Well, I guess that question is complex for me because it's like, are you talking about a cis person or a trans person?
whoever they are. Yeah.
I think through the years, especially the last few years, more and more people are becoming advocates. So I feel like if you want to get involved, you can go to your LGBT center and you can find out how you can help. There's so much more information online now. You can learn how to be a better ally. If you don't personally know someone who's trans, I think just overall, it's really, every trans person is different. So it's really just about asking them like how you can be a better ally and just to them in general. But outside of that, just following your career as a model or actress, I always tell models, link up with a photographer, take pictures, learn your angles. That's really important. You can go back and watch Top Model. there's a lot of, I know it had a lot of slack. It got a lot of slack this year, but I learned so much about the industry from Top Model, and it really did set me up. Even before I was on the show, it really did set me up for what to expect in the industry. And sometimes, although it is like dramatized, I did go through a lot of experience that I did see on previous seasons of the show. And I would just tell people in general, just get out there. You know, we're so afraid to make mistakes, and I know I'm a perfectionist, but you can't learn if you don't make mistakes. Whether that's asking questions, whether that's getting out there and doing it yourself, that's how you learn and that's how you continue to flourish. Not being afraid to ask for help as well, which I have a hard time doing, but I'm getting better. And like you said here, it's all about a tribe. And sometimes you just have to find your tribe, people that want to see you elevated and want to see you get better. That's really important. And that's a really important tool to progress.
Beautiful. Thank you. Candice, what advice would you give to someone who wants to make a difference the way that you have?
I believe that everybody feels like they have to make this huge difference, like they need to go out and affect millions and millions of people. And honestly, just from hearing everybody today, honestly, they were impacted by one person, and that person changed their entire trajectory of what they were capable of or what they thought they were capable of by like speaking words, speaking confidence, speaking values. And so for me, it's like, don't set out to change, millions of people. Like, change the people that are within your circle, change the people that you can touch and impact. Because honestly, like, I grew up in the Chicago area. Everybody knows Michael Jordan. And I remember him having this quote where he would say, on the nights I don't feel like playing, I would play for that one little boy that's in the stands that has never seen me play. And so for that, it's like, whether you're DJing, whether you're playing the violin, whether you're doing fashion, modeling, whatever you're doing, playing basketball, I mean, there's somebody that doesn't know you and doesn't know your passion. So like, impact them. And so that's kind of just been my motto. And then just also, like, we're right now, the leaders and role models for people that are going to shape our children and our grandkids and things like that. And so for me, I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I just want positive role models. I want equality. I want the world to be better. And so I would just challenge everybody out there to just do what they feel is best, but just start small, honestly, and just impact the people that are important to you.
Oh, that was good.
Thank you. Oh goodness, we should exchange notes. You have an 11-year-old, I have a 12-year-old. So
girl, yes.
We're in it.
Girl.
Michelle, what advice would you give?
Obviously lead by example. I also have really embraced allowing yourself to be vulnerable and trying to live from a more evolved place and be comfortable speaking. I call it therapy speak sometimes, but I find that the feminine energy is rising and we are connecting in these ways. And so, as I said earlier, delivery is important, and I feel like that gets you far. I use my social media platforms and speak up all the time. And we just went through an election. I question sometimes because I have clients, or I speak up for the environment, and I speak up for animals, and I speak up for social injustice, or about social injustice. And I think that I question sometimes, is that going to come off too hard or stuff? But then I think about that in-style badass inclusion, and I'm like, obviously you're doing something right. So say it, say it. I lean into it, and really do use my social media platforms, and then have those conversations. Make sure that people in your inner circle are having these conversations, or I feel like the world has been screaming to us this year, get out of your comfort zone, get out of your comfort zone. And I find myself saying this to a lot of my friends. You know, I know this is an uncomfortable conversation. I know that this is putting us in a weird place right now even, but getting out of, this is what I hear the world asking of me, and I'm a nudger. So I guess I bring that to the people around me.
Nudge. Elle, what advice would you give to someone?
I think one of the most important things is to use what you have and to use your voice. I think sometimes it's so easy to say, oh, well, I didn't come from a privileged family, or I didn't grow up with a lot of money. And, you know, people see, you know, things on Instagram or on TV and they think, oh, I wish I could be that, but I can't. And the thing is no matter what life we were born into, we all have the opportunity if we just use what we have. And I think just me and my journey, it resonates so much with me. You know, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. My mom said we had to be educated. We all went to university. You know, I grew up with the execs of, you know, Frito-Lay or Louis Vuitton. And for me to then go through the experience I went through, I was still labeled as just a Black girl from Texas. They said, oh no, she's probably uneducated, or, you know, all of these things. And to have to start from the beginning again, anyone can just use what they have. It doesn't matter if you grew up with money, it doesn't matter if you went to university, none of those things matter. We have to come together and use what we have and use our voice, because that's the only time we're going to be able to truly affect change.
I love it. Thank you, Elle. Ezzy?
Yeah, you know, I mean, listening to everybody's responses, I feel like I'm kind of repeating more of the same, but it's just, I think the biggest tool for activism is just sharing your truth, sharing your story, sharing your experiences, and then listening. I think right now we live in a very divided, polarized world where there is not enough listening, and I think not enough sharing from the heart. And I just believe with social media, we have this beautiful democratic tool. Like with Elle, with what you said, everybody has access to Instagram for the most part. You know, you can share anything. Anyone can go viral, right? But it's that the fact that everybody has this access means that we really are in a position to blend and, I think, fix this divide that we have right now in our country and in our culture. And I think that's just about telling your truth, telling your experiences, telling what it's like to be from Lincoln, Nebraska as the only Black kid in your school playing the violin. And by telling people that experience, they can then make connections. And then I listen to their experience, and we just keep sharing. And I think that is activism. You know, of course you can protest, you can donate, you can write to your politicians, but activism, I think at its core is about compassion, empathy, and just speaking your truth, and then listening to everyone else, you know? So that's kind of how my approach on my platform, in terms of just inspiring and sharing my experiences to hopefully inspire people to maybe change their views, or maybe not change their views, or participate in the political process, or whatever it may look like. So.
Thank you, Ezzy, and thank you all. We are sadly at time, and I wish that I could continue having this conversation with all of you. But in closing, just want to say a very warm thanks to our panelists, Elle, Isis, Ezzy, Candace, and Michelle. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the stories that you share. You know, I often think of the phrase, if you can see it, you can be it. And every single one of you is, you know, is that for a little girl, a little boy, an adult, an aspiring ally, an aspiring musician. I mean, you name it, you are doing that, and you're living your truth and showing us all how to live our truths as well. Thank you for allowing me this space with you. And may you all continue to do amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy.
Thank you.